Hello, faithful listener, and welcome to The Loop. This is the podcast that keeps you in the loop about what works and what doesn't in B2B today. I'm your host. My name is Joe Barron, and I work in Cognism's SEO team. And today I have a very special guest. He's Dmitry Dragilev. He's a growth advisor and founder of Topic Ranker, which is an AI-powered SERP analysis tool. And today we're going to be we're giving you an SEO masterclass into areas such as how to identify SEO weak spots, generative AI, and what it means to create quality content for search. So lots to get through in this session. But Dmitry, welcome. How are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. I love your intro. I think you can definitely maybe do this professionally, on all those voiceovers in the radio. But
Oh,
doing well. Good weather today. Just did a CrossFit workout, so full of
excellent.
energy.
Excellent. I'm really pleased to hear it. So, before we get into the topics that we're going to discuss, could you share a bit of your background with our listeners, like how you first got into SEO and how you've progressed in the industry?
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be part of four acquisitions. The most recent one, most exciting one, is the one by Mangles, which most of you guys probably have heard of. Mangles is a big SEO suite, kind of designed for your everyday SEO person to kind of get in there. And they acquired my company, Topic Ranker, and I've been in SEO for 12 years, but basically been doing similar things, building SaaS products. Some of them were in the PR link building space of the SEO realm. Some of them were more like keyword research tools, like the one that Mangles acquired. Some of them were the one that SEMrush acquired was last year, 2023, and that was more in an affiliate space, but again, also SEO. So all of these different micro SaaS or affiliate sites, the tools and platforms I've built were in the SEO space. I've dabbled in it, like I said, for 12 years. Along the way, met some amazing people. Very fortunate that I kind of dove into the space because I was originally a software engineer and loved coding and just kind of gravitated towards the darker side of SEO, trying to figure out how to learn, like how the algorithm works and all that. And then I just kind of dove deeper and deeper into it and eventually switched professions, started building apps, and saw my first acquisition within 6 years, and then the next one was in 2 years, and then the next one within 2 years. And then I'm like, oh, this is cool. I can speed this up and keep building micro businesses and have a sort of a lifestyle approach to it where I spend most of my time with my family and my kids, and I'm able to work, you know, part time and kind of live that life that I wanted for quite a bit of time here.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's amazing, Dimitri. And 12 years working in SEO. You must have been there, done that, got the t-shirt and everything.
Yeah, well, it was just so different then. I didn't even think about the half the things that I think about now. It was like, oh, what, like let's just buy a bunch of links on a bunch of PBNs and let's just get a bunch of links from these like sites, and all of a sudden your stuff is ranking, and you're like, and you could be consulting all sorts of random clients making so much money. It's like the early days of Google was just like a wild ride. You could be getting so much traffic, and everybody was so excited about it that it was really exciting. Now it's more like button down approach to like granular, really good content. So it's just a different mentality then. I didn't even think of myself as an SEO for the first like I think 4 years. I was just like, let's just get traffic. That's what I was just kind of focused on.
I can definitely relate to that because I've been working in SEO and search for about, yeah, like 6 years. And yeah, I think even back then when I started, it was totally different to how it is now. You know, the things that you get measured on, the things that make you successful have all completely changed. Yeah, it was much more about just like getting traffic at any costs back then.
Yeah.
And
And there
now,
was no barriers, remember? I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
2015, even I 13, like there was no barriers. Like you could get to the top of page one and you'd stay there. Like, and there nothing, nobody would muscle you out. There will be like basically there's no Google properties that were there to kind of counteract you. So your clicks to open web from that SERP were like 100%. You get to the top page, to the number one spot, and 100% of people clicking through were clicking on your thing. Now it's like, we'll talk more about it, but it's like back then there was no barriers once you got there. And once you got there, you kind of stayed there. You keep buying links. Links really move the game really bad. You can have really crappy content. You do like the auto-generated stuff a bit. And I mean, you did all sorts of things back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into our topics of discussion for today then. So we saw recently here at Cognism, Dmitry, that you did this LinkedIn post that listed out the 6 trends that you think SEO marketers need to know in order to succeed in the current landscape. And I'd love to go through all these points one by one with our listeners. So the first point was Google's recent updates emphasize that content quality matters more than backlinks. And in your opinion, what key factors define content quality today? And how can businesses consistently produce content that aligns with Google's standards?
I usually say if you went to court tomorrow and you had to get a lawyer and you had to prove that you deserve to be number one for this search term, what would be your arguments and will they hold in court? And will the jury rule in your favor? And that's how I think of keyword research and key terms and content now is, hey, you can't just rank there because you think it's a better quality content. Like what does that mean? Is it so for me, I identify a specific problem on the SERP. And I need to, when I go to court, and this is a fictional court, of course, I'm not going to any court, but in my mind, I'm always constructing a court. Like, if I have to go up on a podium, like, prove to a jury that I deserve to be number one for this term, I'm like, all right, well, look at this. Like, these 4 things have a low, they're 7 months old. These 3 things on the SERP, the title doesn't even have half the words the query person put that in the query, right? 3 of these things don't load on mobile until 5 seconds, or it takes them 5 seconds plus to load. So I'm going to create something that has everything in the title that the query was the search term has for the query, loads under 3 seconds, and capitalizes on all these weaknesses that I found, right? And then I can say, okay, I created a quality piece of content that went after these problems on the SERP, and I optimized the SERP. I improved the SERP by serving it and creating something better. So I can genuinely feel good about it. I can genuinely prove to the jury that I feel good about it. And in my mind, that's a quality piece of content. That's how I think about it and approach it. I try and tell others to do so. It is very hard for people to actually implement this because they nod, they hear this on a podcast, they might read my blog post or a LinkedIn post, but you gravitate to what you're used to because you have these neural connections in your brain. You're like, all right, I've done this for years. Like, I'm just going to kind of take Dimitri's advice, kind of do what I used to do. And that's where you're stuck on like number 7 or number 9 for like 6 months in the SERP. That's where you're not actually going after something and beating it or improving it. You're just kind of sort of creating something that is kind of sort of the same thing, only a little longer, only a little more images and comparison tables. And then you're like, why am I not ranking? Maybe I should get more links. And that's the majority of SEOs now. It's like day in and day out, I talk to our customers, clients, and that is what people are still thinking. They kind of like the thinking that I'm talking about, but they still do the old school way, it seems like.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's you mentioned that you like to treat content like a product that requires ongoing improvement. And that kind of feeds into what you were just saying in terms of there's the theory, but then there's actually doing the practical steps to make these pages better, to increase your rankings. So what kind of practical steps do you think people can take to ensure their content remains relevant and up there on the SERPs?
Well, yeah, I like to treat it as a product in a sense that if you and I were going to build a tool or an app, we wouldn't just kind of identify the need for this in the market, do our market research, and go and build this app, launch it, and just kind of forget about it, right? If that happens, then most people are going to say, hey, like, look at all these other competitors who are improving their service offerings and solutions and products, and you guys haven't done anything new in years. Like, people's needs change. People need to see something new in the product to continuously use it. It needs to be a sticky product as things change in the space, in the industry. Same thing with the content. I think of a content as great. You created your first draft of an article, post it halfway done, even halfway written. Show Google that you're writing it and improving it. The thing is, the worst thing you can do is you can spend a month writing a behemoth of an article addressing every single problem and issue on the SERP, publish it after these 30 days, and then forget about it for the next 2 months, asking link builders to build links to it, and then changing your title and hoping you're going to climb to the top. Guess what? Google doesn't care that you spend a month creating a 5,000 page behemoth. Google cares about you improving it and caring about this thing. What does Google want? They want somebody who is consistently updating a piece of content that is up to date and the most informative piece of content. So if you are not updating this content consistently, I mean every two weeks at least, by that, and of course, by an update, I mean it's not just an update of an intro and the title. It's an update where you're adding things to it, that you are improving it. So yeah, I think of it as a product, and in that sense, we're talking about more investment on your side these days. It's not about churning out tons of these posts, you know. It's about creating articles and improving them consistently to consistently move up in rankings slowly but surely as you improve it. And every time you improve it, submit it to Google Search Console every now and then if you don't get crawled, but you're showing Google that you really care about it. I typically think of that because if you prove to the jury once that you deserve to be there and they said, okay, go ahead and write it. And then, they move you up to number 4, number 5 once you publish it. That's not the end of the game. Now you got to go back to the jury in 2 weeks and say, hey, look at me. I improved it. I added this, this, and this, and now it's even more competitive. Please move me up to number 3. And that's how I treat it. It's an algorithm, but I treat it as a jury. And it works out, like it really works out. There's a good correlation. Somehow the jury correlation works out with the Google's algorithm rankings for me.
I really like that where you say, Google cares about you actually caring about your content and making it better by just doing like small updates and more regularly. And it's interesting as well because you're the second SEO in as many weeks to say to me that you should just publish an unfinished article. It doesn't have to be like a big, massive, long blog that's really authoritative. Just publish half of it and then come back to it later on, which I've never actually done. But I might actually try that with one of my blogs soon.
Yeah, do it because I think it helps. It needs to be somewhat baked, but you don't need to have a lot of the article, like maybe half, maybe a bit more, and then don't submit it to Google Search Console, but let it crawl your sitemap and it'll pick it up. You won't probably see it ranking, but as you keep continuously update it and start submitting it to Google Search Console with every update, if you have a smaller website and it doesn't come back to you consistently and crawl you, then yeah, you'll start ranking eventually. It's just a matter of showing Google that you have history with it. The article's been baking for a while. That's actually something that I'm thinking about next, is writing some type of a platform that allows you to write the article and publish it somewhat seamlessly, automatically, as you write more and more of it, and submit it to Google Search Console and see how the rankings are doing when you log into your WordPress.
Well, I think there's a lot of SEOs that would love a tool like that. Definitely. So when you're working on, like, so let's say, for instance, Dmitry, you've got a top ranking, a formerly top ranking page that might have, fallen down the SERP. Let's say it was at like 2 or 3, it might have gone down to 6 or 7. What are the most common issues that you see with those types of pages, and what would you kind of do to improve the rankings there?
So these two updates this year really focused on sort of leveling the field with consumer sentiment around topics. And that is, no longer are we coming back to a time when we have a bunch of blogs and publications occupying the top search result. It has been a big change, but it's a change that we're moving into, where we want the public opinion about these topics in the SERP somewhere. We want a good explanation and public opinion, because when the search intent for the majority, and I'm not talking about like specific industries, but what I have seen studying the algorithm is that this is something that's happening. And so if things are falling down, if your page has been hit by this update, which a lot of people have been suffering, uh, chances are, I mean, the first thing I look at a page is, hey, do you have customer reviews, customer feedback, and are you comparing ratings and consumer sentiment on this topic? Now, topic could be not about products at all. It could be, I don't know, like specific way to grow a plant, or care for a string of pearls plant or something. But is it just your opinion on how to do that? Or is it tons of other people's opinion combined from different sources and with specific quotes from people, right? Uh, what I have seen is articles written just from one person's opinion, domains written from one person's opinion, without including consumer sentiment, without including reviews, feedback, ratings in the articles, have been hit. And to recover, need that information and data in them. Uh, the other thing that I am starting to look at is whether it's even worth ranking on Google for specific keywords. So with these two updates, the SEO game has changed so much since, even last year. It's not worth ranking for a lot. Like, can you even get above the fold on the SERP or no? If you can't get above the fold on the SERP, who even cares about this? Like, why are you even trying? Because how many clicks are you actually gonna get? We know that 41% of people in general click out to an open web on a SERP from Google. The rest do something else. Like, they just stay on the SERP, they go to Google's properties. So you're just fighting for like 40% of your actual, like, people are searching this thing. And yes, it's good brand marketing. Like, if your stuff gets included in generative AI, like, it's still worth ranking on the first page. But the reward here is not really traffic that's like organic raw traffic on a lot of pages anymore. It's more like people search for you, they might read your article, they might skim it, but they might leave. And then eventually, in a few days or weeks, they'll come back to your site, and then maybe they will try and find out more about you or what you do. So yeah, those are the two things that go through my mind a lot of times. Is consumer stuff in there? Is there any feed, like ratings, customer reviews, stuff like that that's in there? If it's missing that, and I see all the competitors have it, And in general, most SERPs these days, once Reddit and LinkedIn was brought into the SERPs, now have it. So it might be outdated that the SERP has an outdated Reddit thread or an outdated LinkedIn thread. And if that's the case, then you can go after those channels and, participate in that LinkedIn discussion, participate in that Reddit discussion and get in there. But I'm always thinking, hey, does that have that customer sentiment in the article, data about whatever the topic you have? If you don't have that data, research data, work on that to make your piece stronger. Because Reddit is not a very easy thing to read and kind of make sense of. So a lot of times what I suggest our clients do is go through the Reddit thread that's ranking number 1. Yes, you're ranking number 12, but go through that Reddit thread and combine the sentiment. What are the top pros? What are the top cons? Combine that in your article, put it up, and then go through your G2 ratings or trust radius, put those ratings in there on whatever topic you're writing about. Maybe it's not about tools or whatever. And that will give you more ammo to compete with some of the other ones that don't have that yet. Because the change is so fresh now from the August update and the March update. And so, yeah, those are the two things I think about. Add the consumer sentiment. Is it worth ranking for it at all?
Yeah, that's fascinating. And that was actually going to be my next question for you, Dmitry, was all about Reddit, because obviously that's been one of the big controversies, I think, of search this year, where Google allegedly did this deal with Reddit, where Reddit threads are being pushed up in the rankings. And do you think it's worthwhile for SEOs to engage with Reddit like you just sort of suggested?
Yes, I think so. Reddit is being used in generative AI, is going to be used more and more to create those answers, right? So generative AI answer within the Google search will rely on it somewhat. We don't know exactly how much. I have a couple of studies that are going now about specific signals that impact generative AI. But in terms of Reddit in general, what I think is the rise of zero-click SERPs, and it's continuously an issue that we look at and track, but we're seeing much more zero-click searches where the SERP is just monopolized by Google's properties. We have generative AI in there. We have Google snippets. We have info boxes. People also asked. The rise of that is moving marketing into a world where SEO ranking number 1 is not the only way and probably not the best way to capture your audience. So what I'm looking at now with most of our clients is finding where your audience are. And because this change happens so fast, you have an abundance of old Reddit threads that are ranking number 1, number 2, or number 3 in millions of searches. Like, it's just crazy. A lot of times you will do a search and you'll see Reddit ranking at the top, and it's from 8 months ago. Very often, right now, this is what's happening. And I think it's a huge opportunity for marketers to participate in those threads and update them, become a bit of a prominent voice in Reddit, to promote the brand somehow in the right way. Now, you have to be careful because Reddit has its own community and its own moderators, and every subreddit is very different. So I would not just blindly start getting into these Reddit threads. But these Reddit threads are a signal that, hey, there's something old and outdated, and it's, in the top position on Google. And that's always not kosher. That always has to change. And so you can be the first one to sort of go after them. If it's an old Reddit thread and you don't really like the moderator, maybe you create a new Reddit thread on the same topic and you try and outrank that Reddit thread. Maybe you have something smart to add because it's been 7 months since that Reddit thread was updated. Maybe you can share your opinion. Don't promote your brand up front, but just share your opinion. Start getting in there to see how that subreddit works And then eventually, maybe during the discussion, your thing would be mentioned. Don't hire any editors or anybody else to do this for you. I would always say, do it yourself. Try and be authentic in Reddit. Reddit is like a whole, you can write a book about it. But LinkedIn and Reddit, I think, are decent, like channels to explore. But I subscribe to Spark Toro and I use the research tool a lot from Rand Fishkin, the founder of Moz. And it's really become more and more useful. When he started it, I was like, gosh, I don't know what you're going to use this thing for. Like, why do we have this research audience tool? But now I think it's very, very topical because now marketers are saying SEO is a little bit crazy now with the zero-click SERPs. There's just a lot of SERPs where it's not even worth ranking for. Where are my audience? Because people don't even click on stuff on Google anymore. People kind of Google things and they might get some information, and that's where I think Reddit, LinkedIn, podcasts, and different communities and publications, social media profiles where people are hanging out, your audience. And that's where I'm looking at, direct marketing. So we're moving back to, I think, that direct marketing that we used to do.
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because that's a trend that's really accelerated, I think, this year, where people are thinking, well, there aren't those clicks on the SERP anymore, but we still have an audience, but they're not really hanging out on Google or clicking on the pages. But yeah, they're in LinkedIn, they're in Reddit, they're elsewhere, which is fascinating. You touched on it briefly earlier, but what's your opinion on backlinks? Do you think it's still a worthwhile pursuit for SEOs?
Um, it's funny. So I was in Mangles yesterday because we're trying to write. We wrote an article. Can SEO keywords be phrases? That's the term we're going after. We're number 6, stuck for like about a week. Updated it. I think it's decent enough. We capitalized on 4 weaknesses in the SERP. We're not even fighting anybody that big. We've got no links to this post at all. And I'm like, this year, I've been of an opinion like, all right, links don't really matter all that much, like they're not moving the needle a lot. But I'm in Mangles looking at my competition, and I'm like, gosh, these like lower DA pages that are above me have more backlinks. So I started by just adding maybe 2 or 3 internal links, and that seemed to kind of move me to not, like 1 up in like a few days. And I just like reached out to a few people to try and put a few external links to test. We got 1 published, hasn't really moved anything for me. And that's a live test that I'm just going through again now. I'm of opinion that just backlinks in general haven't moved the needle. And they haven't moved the needle in the same way. Meaning like the story that I just told you, like we added links that are internal. Then I got two internal, 2 external, and we moved like 1 spot. And the external links were like decent links. Like they were like something that would move the needle usually, like a HubSpot article that's like ranking high up, like it's got, like good traffic, got no other links in there, tough domain to get, and like nothing. Like the thing just like stays there. And you're like, has this been indexed? Has this link been the index? You go into Ahrefs, like yeah, like they put the link is in there. Like Mangles, like everybody's reporting that the link is there. I'm like, it's just not moving things the way it used to. I could get people to link to something and things would just move. Like if I get, I don't know, Monday.com, HubSpot, and TechCrunch and whatever to try and push some links out, I'd pop. Like it would pop. Like it would pop somewhat easily because I would out muscle some of the newer links that my competitors had. And specifically for smaller keywords, I mean, you need like one of those D890s and you go it up. But now I nothing. Like I mean, like it's just not moving. But I go in and I change the title tag and put in like a comparison table with customer ratings, and then all of a sudden, like my title tag says with G2 ratings, like 10 best blah 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 reviews with G2 ratings, and then it pops like three up, like three positions up. So I'm like, gosh, like, and this has been the trend for me this year. Like since like this March update, this has been the trend for me this year. So now I'm like, I literally like I let go of most of my link builders, and like I pinged one of them yesterday. I'm like, well, let's just try it again, see if maybe we can get a few links to this post and see if we can move up with links. But I'm having this like when you have too much to eat, you kind of don't want dessert. Like I have that same feeling with links right now. I just like the dinner was just so filling that like whatever that dessert is, it's not gonna make you feel good. And I feel the same about backlinks. Like the content is just so good, like the links are just gonna kind of ruin it. I think like or not really do anything, and so it's gonna ruin your spending and costs in some way. So I'm starting to shape that opinion. Now I'm doing this kind of in limbo live here because things are just changing. This year has been kind of crazy with SEO. Like there's just so much stuff that's happening with generative AI, wrench style SEO, both of these updates. We had the Google leak. Like there's just so much to study and keep on top of. But yeah, in terms of backlinks, that's where I'm kind of thinking, that's the feeling I'm getting right now with backlinks. And I think it's still valuable in some industries. I'm still seeing, VoIP and maybe VPN, maybe some of those. I think the algorithm is a little lagging there with like maybe there's still some room to kind of muscle each other with links, but I think it's just slowing down a ton. Even earlier this year, we were doing a campaign with Nextiva, and we got to the top with, much faster. And then later in the year, we're doing a very similar campaign, and we exactly the same backlinks, and it's like just not doesn't move the needle as much. So I would, I'm investing more into content updates, and I guess it's better. I mean, I think it's just a better, cleaner way to work. But I do think like PR mentions are becoming more, better for your brand, for your domain authority. So I'm gravitating away from like link to this blog post to, mention of my brand, whether it's linked or unlinked, to kind of influence the generative AI and all that stuff.
Well, that's interesting because that's something that we've definitely seen at Cognism, where we've seen the power of backlinks has definitely decreased this year, but the on-page content has become a lot more important, and that's certainly something we're focusing on by doing regular updates of our most important pages. Literally just looking at them every month and just trying to like tweak them, make adjustments, and make them better. You just mentioned, Dmitry, generative AI, another big topic for this year. What's your opinion on AI? Are you using it in SEO? How do you use it?
I just posted this LinkedIn post that got like 110,000 views, which I did not expect. It was just a short video. I sat in front of a camera and I said, I use it as a research assistant. You should not use it as a way to build your entire piece of content. I thought it was something very trivial, and I said it because I read some other LinkedIn posts where the guy was saying, we use ChatGPT to write all our posts, and we use this other AI tool to optimize it, and then basically we grew the whole blog from zero to some skyrocket number of views a month with generative AI. And it was just like, what? No, like you should be using it as a research assistant. And got 110,000 views. It went kind of a little viral on LinkedIn over the weekend, last weekend. And I was kind of surprised, but I guess most people are trying to, of course, use it to create more content faster, which is counterintuitive to me. Like, no, like you shouldn't be. So, I mean, you're not supposed to use it to generate content. You're not supposed to create content with it because it's just kind of poor in terms of that. I use it as a research assistant for data. So a lot of times, and this does involve some work on your part, maybe even your engineer's work, where you have a big set of data and you need it summarized. And an example that I sort of did was for an article, we compared the top customer service software or help desk software, and we analyzed G2 reviews. Now, G2 and also Reddit, for that extent, like it's kind of hard for a person to read through. I mean, sometimes there's 100 comments in there, right? And the discussion starts on Reddit. I'm talking about in one light, and then it might gravitate to a very dark place, and it might be it's like all over the place. So it's very hard to make sense of what is there quickly. Same thing with G2 reviews. I mean, you can go and review air call, and it could be like great thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing. How do you even make sense of it? And so AI is great at sort of reading all that stuff and summarizing the main problems and the main pros that people have. And then you can present that in a more cohesive way to your audience. So a lot of times I like to use AI's power to do that, right? Just to bust out content that's like generic facing content, just so you can say you have like 5 posts a month or 10 posts a month. It's not what you should be doing. I hope nobody else is doing it. And if you are, maybe just stop. Just to try and write more content faster, it's not something I really do it for. But a lot of times, the other use case for me would be, give me some ideas of how to make my title better. Like I am not the best writing, like title wise. Like here's my title currently. Make it snappier, make it punchier, make it more engaging. And that's a good thing. Like the tool might come up with different ones, and I might take one of them. Meta description tags. I might say, all right, I wrote this paragraph, and just rewrite it for me. Just make it a little more engaging and shorter, or something like that. So I might use it that way. But in terms of other use cases, I just don't. It's pretty much not like definitions. I might pull definitions out of it. A lot of times what's useful with it, and that's something that my friend Luke W did, is he fed it all of his articles. He had about 1,000 articles on his blog, and he created a little chatbot out of it. And so what people can do, instead of reading 1,000 articles or searching for those 1,000 articles, they can just ask it questions, and it'll answer those things. So I think going forward, that's something that I definitely want to see if I can start creating, is more of a sort of a chat agent that can just summarize things for you on whether it's the Reddit thread that you're on, or maybe you're on some page that's a G2 ratings page. Quick summaries of it in the chat form where you can ask it questions is something that I think would be useful. Right now, I do it one by one. So if I'm writing on some topic and I see there's a Reddit thread already there, I'm going to be training my chat GPT with all the stuff that's in that Reddit thread, and I'm gonna say, all right, spit back out like what's the summary of all these things? What are the main pros? What are the main cons? What are people saying about this topic? And that's the biggest use case I see for it right now, for me, for us, you know.
Again, I think a lot of SEOs would love a tool like that, Dimitri. Definitely, I can relate. So we've come to the last question of this discussion, and it's a question that we ask a lot of our guests, and it can be about something we covered today or something completely different. But based on what you're seeing in marketing at the moment, Dimitri, what is something that you would advise marketers to start doing and something you'd suggest they stop doing?
Sure. I think in terms of start doing, and I'd say weak spot analysis on the SERP. So most of us don't even think about that much. We started to with these two updates. They're kind of pushing us into that direction because links aren't moving us in the rankings. So now we're forced to be like, well, why am I not ranking? I'm paying $10,000, $5,000 a month on links. Well, maybe even if you're paying 3 grand a month, you're still kind of upset that your stuff isn't ranking. So you're starting to think about what else can I do with my content? That's where you're like, okay, well, maybe there's some kind of problem on the SERP I have to fix, but it's a little too late because you already written a piece of content. So now I got to think of a new piece of content to do. So I'd say in terms of start doing, look for weak spots and problems, right? So, and try to capitalize on them. Whether you're updating your piece of content, which I think most people should be doing, is just updating their content consistently because that's your lowest hanging fruit. Or if you're creating new content, but start looking at those weak spots and start thinking the way I was talking about, like the jury and trying to prove you deserve that spot because of a specific weak spot and problem area or whatever the issue you found on that SERP. In terms of like stopping, what you should be stopping doing is backlinks and like velocity of content. I think those two things are not something that you should be even considering anymore. They are not useful in any way. So this rush to use ChatGPT to create as many posts as you can on as many keywords as you can one by one. Look at that, sir. Does it even deserve for you to be there? Is it even worth for you to fight to get up there? Is it going to convert? Is it like ask yourself all these hard questions and then very steadily create that content. Forget too much about like backlinks. Forget about like just creating something, publishing really fast. Just, very thoroughly keep updating that content, improving it internally linking to it, and if you really identified real problems, I think you'll rank there. But doing all this stuff we used to do back in the day, I think that's all over now. So we gotta just create that content and improve it.
Dimitri, we have to do better. That's the thing. That's great. Well, this has been an amazing chat, Dimitri. It's I've certainly learned a lot, and I know our listeners will get a lot of value from it. But before we wrap up, could you tell our listeners where they can find you online?
Yeah, they can go to topicranker.com. You'll see all the information there. There's a contact in the bottom right, actually. You can hit that. That'll go directly to me and our team as well. But I usually look at that. So you can reach out with any questions on topicranker.com. Also on LinkedIn, I post 3 times a week. So if you put in my name on LinkedIn, Dmitry Dragilev, or Dmitry Topic Ranker, you'll probably find me. Follow me, connect. I'd love to chat with you, answer any of your questions. We do office hours once a month, so bring your questions. You don't have to be a customer or anything. I usually take anybody's questions on those calls.
Great, great. Yeah, please, everyone, do connect with Dimitri. He's got so much knowledge and insights to share. This is a man who's been in SEO for 12 years and counting. And yeah, do connect with him. Well, Dimitri, thank you very much for being a guest on the Loop.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye bye.